This is TV 10 and 55 Focus, a program dealing with issues affecting everyone on Long Island and the tri-state area. Now your host, Richard Rose.
Hi, I'm Richard Rose, and welcome to Focus. Today it is our pleasure to have as our guest Kevin Law. He's the president and CEO of the Long Island Association and many other titles that we'll get into. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks, Rich.
Do you ever take a day off? I don't think so. Every time I look, you're in the paper or on television for some trip to Albany or to Washington. You're right at the heart of some of the big economic projects that the Governor Cuomo has wanted to see develop in the state and here on Long Island. And we should start with that. I believe you were appointed by the governor to be co-chair of the Regional Economic Development Council. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, along with Stu Rabinowitz, the president of Hofstra University, who's my co-chair. And it was a very exciting last couple of months. What the governor did was he created 10 regional economic development councils throughout the state. He carved up the state into 10 regions, Nassau-Suffolk being one of those regions. And he had the regions compete against one another for two different pots of monies and for economic development purposes. So each council was charged with preparing an economic development strategic plan for their region, which would be competing with plans from the other 9 regions.
Well, right there, that was a very bright idea, because what it did is it helped local areas overcome some of the differences they might have had in the competing interests for when any project is proposed, to realize now you're not competing locally, you're competing against another part of the state if you want to get attention of the governor.
It had two benefits, several, but two important ones. First, the governor realized that each region of the state has a different economy. And the Long Island economy is different than the Finger Lakes economy. It's different than the New York City economy and the North Country economy. And so rather than Albany dictating what we should be doing from an economic development perspective, he said the plan should come from the community up. So he appointed about 22 members to our council. Then we created about 4 different work group committees, and we brought in 100 other Long Islanders from all different walks of life in the public, private sector, and from all different industries. And so we came up with a plan, and we also had to come up with transformative projects that would help spur job creation here on the island. And we had only 3 months to pull all the plan and the projects together, and we had to get them in on November 14th, and the governor on December 8th announced the winners. And Long Island was one of the winners. So we brought home
big winner.
Big one.
I mean, almost $102 million, about as much as anybody else got. I think somebody else got $1 million more. So
right.
We were a lot more than New York City got.
Long Island was one of the big winners, and so it was great. And I thanked Majority Leader Dean Skelos and the governor, because it was important for Long Island to be recognized, and we do have a lot of good things going for us despite all the negativity that's out there, and we should talk about some of those good things I see happening for our region.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the specifics of the projects, but I think you put a focus on something that transformative projects.
Yes.
I mean, by defining it like that, it seemed like it really helped everybody focus on, well, what is it that we have that's being proposed for Long Island that could be a transformative project and win the attention of Albany and the governor and say, here's the money to do it. Because I saw a lot of people who used to argue with each other about some of these projects get together to make the proposal to Albany. Did you have trouble pulling everybody together?
You know, it wasn't easy, but every project that we approved, we received unanimous votes for. So that was good. We pulled people together. What we concentrated on was, first, we identified our assets, and we wanted to develop a strategic plan based on our assets. And then we concentrated some specific transformative projects based on those assets. And the first group of projects that we identified were building upon our research assets from our research institutions.
You mean like Brookhaven National Lab?
Brookhaven National Laboratory.
Yeah, talk about the role that Brookhaven National Lab is going to play in this.
Well,
because I believe we have some video of it as well.
Okay.
Strategically important laboratory on Long Island that in the last few years has won, I guess, almost $1 billion or so from the federal government for the various projects underway there. So there's a clear economic igniter, if there ever was one. Talk about the role of Brookhaven National Lab.
Well, Brookhaven National Lab is, we're very fortunate to have it here on Long Island. It's a true asset. It has about 3,000 scientists and other professionals working there. So one, they're one of our largest employers. They bring in hundreds of millions of dollars in federal research grants and programs. They produce Nobel laureates. It is the only full-scale national laboratory on the East Coast. There's a small one in Princeton, New Jersey. There's another small one up in New England. But this is a full-scale research Department of Energy laboratory. We have it here on Long Island. And what we're trying to do with B&L and with Stony Brook University and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory and Hofstra and North Shore LIJ is to help convert the research in those institutions into commerce and help create the next future employers of Long Island.
Because they come up with inventions and applications there that are cutting edge.
They really are. They get a lot of patents, and we need to help try to commercialize the research into commerce and help create the new future employers of Long Island. So all of those institutions that I mentioned are assets. We want to build an economy based on those assets, and that was a big part of our plan. The other big part of our plan was rebuilding our communities. And what we did was we identified 4 very significant projects in 4 communities, several of which are in minority communities that have seen disinvestment over the years. And so the panel that created our plan really liked that we, a suburb, was encouraging investment in our minority communities in Hempstead, Wyandanch,
right,
and Heartland Project in Brentwood. And so, and we also did another very regionally significant project that we supported, the Ronkonkoma Hub. And so all 4 are worth talking about, so I'm happy to answer any questions on those.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know the people in Hempstead and Wyandanch were thrilled to see some of the money come their way, because they've often said through the years they feel they're overlooked. But it was key that you met the requirements of what the council wanted, and that's how you help win the money. That's how you win the game sometimes.
Right.
But they were good projects, ones we've reported on for years, so we know they're good projects, and there'd always be some obstacles. So it's great to see that we're actually going to get that money to go ahead now. I mean, you've talked about one that's been in the works for years, the Heartland Project, put together by the Wolkoff family. I believe we have some, here's the site plan in Brentwood, right? And here's some of the property over at Pilgrim State Psychiatric Center. Now, what will happen in this project, the Heartland, that will enable it to get off the ground?
Well, the Heartland Project is still a little bit a tricky one because they still have some outstanding issues with the town of Islip. And what the council is hoping for is that the developer, who's a terrific gentleman, and the labor unions can come together and resolve their differences because you know, the developer wants to keep cost as low as he can in terms to make his project marketable. And the labor unions, rightfully so, don't want to see their jobs, those construction jobs, going to out-of-state workers.
Sure.
So we need to bring these 2 sides together and help resolve those differences. And I'm helping to play a role in trying to help bring those 2 sides together.
Because I know I've talked with David Wolkoff, the son of the Gerald Wolkoff, who's the main developer there, and they basically want to build a mini city there.
Right.
I mean, do you know a little bit about the project?
Yes, and in fact, that's why they want to build 9,000 units. It's a mixed-use project, commercial, residential, some industrial, or retail. And the project will have an impact on traffic. And so there needs to be some off-site traffic mitigation measures. And so what we approved for that project was some road widening for some off-site traffic mitigation measures. But we still need to help resolve the issues between the applicant, the developer, and the labor unions, because that's a sticky point right now.
Yeah, and it's such a change for Long Island to have a project that size. Do you think there's a willingness now to see projects at least approaching that size?
I think everybody wants to see it happen, including the labor unions. They want to see the project happen. It's going to create a lot of jobs. And the school district, Brentwood School District, wants to see it happen because it's going to generate a lot of revenues for the school district without generating a lot of children who would then, they'd have to educate. So it really is a win-win. And plus the site has been abandoned for 30 years. Exactly. And something needs to happen there.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Ronkonkoma Hub, and there's a lot more to talk to Kevin Law about, including what's going on at the LIA and what he's done when he's headed down to Washington and up to Albany, when we return right here on Focus.
TV 10 and 55 Focus now continues.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Richard Rose. We're here with our guest, Kevin Law, President and CEO of the Long Island Association, the largest business organization in this region here. And you represent quite a large number of employers. How many employers?
Oh, a couple 100,000. You know,
that's amazing.
Employees on Long Island. So we have a lot of big companies that are members. And what our mission is really trying to help support a healthy business climate for our region and be supportive of issues and initiatives that are going to be good for Long Island businesses.
So now, when we left off, we were talking about the huge amount of money that Long Island won in the regional competitions that the Governor Cuomo set off when he set up the Regional Economic Development Councils, had all the regions of New York State sort of compete against one another to get some of this pile of money that he set aside. And we got $102 million almost. And now we're going to see some of that go to work. We were talking a little bit about the Heartland project in Brentwood, and then also Ronkonkoma Hub is another huge one that seems to be fairly far along and less controversy associated with this one. A lot of people think this one might have the best chance of some quick success. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a terrific project. First, it involves regional cooperation. You have the towns of Brookhaven, town of Islip, and the county of Suffolk working together to get this project off the ground. It all started with Supervisor Mark Lesko, whose leadership has really brought all the parties together. And it's trying to build development around our transportation network there. You have the Long Island Railroad Station in Ronkonkoma, which is the busiest railroad station on Long Island, 14,000 riders a day. Then you have Long Island MacArthur Airport on the other end of it. And so this is a way to connect development with our major mass transit facilities that we have here on the island. And so the fact that you have two towns and a county working together, tying in development with our infrastructure for transportation. The town has already selected a developer for the site, so it is moving fast, and we were very happy to include that project as one of our transformative projects for the region.
What will be in that project, and how much money is going toward it, and what will it be used for?
Well, that's a great question, because all of the monies that we'll receive from the state, the $100 million, will leverage billions of dollars in private financing and non-public financing. And so this is another mixed-use project, residential component, commercial and industrial component, and that's what we need. And we need to be doing those types of developments near our transit hubs. And so along with the other projects that we discussed earlier, I'm excited about the opportunities for Long Island. Long Island has some momentum going now. The governor and Dean Skelos, they awarded us the $100 million. Just last week, they repealed and rolled back the MTA payroll tax, which is going to benefit 80% of the businesses here on Long Island. Last week, Jim Simons, a major philanthropist, gave Stony Brook University $150 million for a cancer research facility on their campus. We have a lot of things going for us. People are seeing that, hey, it's good to invest on Long Island. We need to now ride that momentum into 2012 and let these projects, make sure these projects get off the ground and keep that momentum going.
Yeah, because a lot of times obstacles come out of nowhere. You know, a lot of problems with projects on Long Island frequently involve zoning. Did you overcome any zoning issues with the Ronkonkoma Hub problem, and compare that to the issues that go on with the Nassau Hub, which everyone knows something should be done there, but nothing ever gets done?
Well, they're both very important. Zoning was really in place for all the major regionally significant projects that we approved. Ronkonkoma, Wyandanch Rising with Supervisor Steve Ballone, who is now going to be the county executive, the Heartland project, and the downtown Hempstead project. The Nassau Hub we really wanted to do something with that because you're right, it's such a valuable piece of property, 77 acres in the heart of Nassau County. Ed Mangano, we are working with him. We want to be supportive of his efforts to do something with the site. They weren't as far along as, say, the Ronkonkoma hub was, and our criteria for awarding these monies to projects needed to have we needed to see more progress on the specific plans. And so we told Ed Mangano, we want to make the Nassau hub our top priority in next year's round of funding.
Because it happens, what, in March, I believe?
Well, the fiscal year ends March 31st, so we're told, Governor Cuomo and Majority Leader Skelos have told us they want to continue with the funding for next year. So we want to be right in the mix again. We want to make sure that the Nassau hub gets a priority. There's some other projects, good projects, that didn't make the cut list.
Yeah, EPCAL and Riverhead.
Well, they made some. EPCAL and Riverhead, we approved a agricultural storage facility, cold storage facility to help support our agricultural industry on Long Island, because Suffolk County is still the #1 agricultural producing county in the state of New York. And so that's an asset, and we need to help support that industry, just like our marine industry and our environmental open space programs, which all support our tourism industry. They're all interconnected, and we need to be supportive. So we were able to support some of those projects in our plan as well.
Yeah, because Sean Walter, the Riverhead Town Supervisor, says he's still looking for an even more ambitious project for EPCAL and maybe getting another chunk, a bigger amount of money.
Well, Sean's
so you're
right.
Open to...
Supervisor Walters is right. He's very energetic. He has big visions for EPCAL. We want to be supportive of those efforts because, again, that property is another asset. Let's build upon the assets that we have. There is a commitment there to do something with the property. There is interest by developers to do things out there. We need to work with them and get something off the ground because just like in Nassau, the Nassau hub, too many proposals have happened at Calverton over the years and they've not gone anywhere. Let's do something realistic, get the funding, and support the municipalities get those projects off the ground.
All right, we've got to take another break. We're here with Kevin Law, President and CEO of the Long Island Association. When we'll come back, we'll talk about almost the full repeal of the MTA payroll tax. Can it be completely eliminated, as some senators are demanding? We'll talk about that with Kevin Law when we return.
TV 10 and 55 Focus continues.
Yeah, welcome back. We're here with our guest again, Kevin Law, the head of the Long Island Association, the LIA to many people. And when we left off, I was talking about how we have this deal with the governor and with Republicans, and brought together Republicans in the Senate, Dean Skelos, and then Assembly Democrats who didn't want to see, income tax raised on, who did want to see income taxes raised on some of the wealthier New Yorkers, and they had this compromise. What did you think of the grand compromise, where it wound up being really the very top sliver of New Yorkers that did see their taxes rise? Everybody else got a tax cut, and they mostly repealed the MTA payroll tax to bring Republicans along. What did you think of that whole deal?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think the Governor Cuomo, has been doing a brilliant job of showing leadership. Even if you don't agree with him on the outcomes of the various things that are being negotiated up there, what he is demonstrating is that he is working with Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos, Democrat and Republican, to actually get things done. They are showing what Washington ought to be doing. The partisan gridlock in Washington is now embarrassing, and people don't want to do anything just to hurt the other guy politically. Whereas Dean Skelos and Governor Cuomo, they put their partisan ideologies behind them, and they did what was best for the state. And they've come up with a plan that is going to lower the tax rate for the great majority of New Yorkers, or keep them the same as they are for some, and there'll be a slight increase for those who make over $2 million a year. However, even they will pay less come January 1st than they're paying today.
How so?
Because there was an income tax surcharge levied 2 years ago.
Right.
That surcharge was supposed to expire at the end of this year,
So
December 31st.
it's slightly less than what they were paying right now.
What they're paying right now.
Yes.
So they'll be paying more than they would have paid if the surcharge expired, but less than they're paying now. And everybody else will be paying a lower rate than since 1953.
Which is why the governor was able to say everybody gets a tax cut.
Exactly.
So people say, how does that work? Because people have been paying this surcharge for a couple of years now.
But they're showing creativity, they're getting the job done, and what I think the business community is sensing is that, you know what, again, even if they're not happy with everything that's coming out of Albany, they're seeing that there's competence, and then they're having confidence. And confidence then leads to investment. And so I think the state, our region, you know, the glass is half full, and things will get better. What we need now is for Washington to follow the model set by Governor Cuomo and Majority Leader Dean Skelos on how Republicans and Democrats can work together to do what's best for the state, or in that case, our country.
Well, you couldn't see a more stark contrast than that. I mean, right now we have everybody going home for the holidays, and the whole payroll tax cut up in the air, and a deal one day, it all collapses the next. And we've been through this sort of, you know, almost chaotic, on the verge of the brink, governing for over a year now in Congress on numerous issues. You went down to Washington and testified as a head of a business group, one of the only business groups to testify down there from the state. And what did you think of what you saw when you were there?
Well, you know what? A couple of things. First, we have some terrific congressmen and women. You know, we're lucky. We have Pete King, heads up the Homeland Security Committee. We have Steve Israel, who's one of the hardest working congressmen in the country. I don't think the problem is our congressional delegation. I think the problem is the leadership in both houses that gets infiltrated by their either right-wing or left-wing ideologies that sort of hijack those who are moderate and try to work together to find a common ground and to come up with a solution. So, and what's unfortunate, again, from the business community's perspective, is that, see, here you have the Albany helping out businesses with repealing a payroll tax and reducing taxes on others. And now, because of the Washington gridlock, payroll taxes are going to go up on the federal side. So the businessman is like stuck in, okay, great. The government taketh here and giveth away here.
At the end of the day, you got less money.
And it's a wash. So we really need Washington to, I think, follow Albany's lead on getting things done by putting aside partisan differences.
Well, you've been in the job for over a year now, right?
Right.
And wow, I mean, were you surprised at the focus of the Long Island Association? I mean, you really become like the spokes group for business on Long Island. It's been that way for a while, but every hot button issue, you guys are represented. Were you ready for that? Did you anticipate that?
Well, you know, it's always fun to take over a challenge, and the LIA, I think, had become a little bit muted over the years, and one of the reasons I agreed to do it was I wanted to resurrect it, reinvigorate it, and we now have a waiting list of people who want to be on our board. And so it's exciting. The LIA played a big role in the regional economic development.
You had a lot of members on the board?
7 of our members were participants in the regional economic development councils.
Out of 22, that's about a third.
It's great, and we're being recognized in Albany. Also, the LIA was recently, we're part of a national coalition now of metropolitan business organizations, the only one in New York State invited. It was initiated by Silicon Valley Leadership Group. And so now we're beginning to talk about our regional economies at the federal level as well. So our primary purpose is to advocate for businesses here. We need jobs. We need to be supportive of initiatives that are going to help create jobs, keep jobs here, put our construction men and women back to work. And because at the end of the day, it's those jobs that provide the essential governmental services that we need, whether it's public health or public safety. So we're all in this together. And so don't be anti-business or anti-business person, you know, because those are the people who are investing, creating jobs, and will hopefully lead to a brighter picture here on Long Island.
We got about 30 seconds. You enjoying this job?
Yeah, so far so good. It's been a quick, fun year, and at the end of the day, everything I've done in my life has been about giving back to Long Island, doing good things for Long Island, and it's fun to be able to have a role where you can try to make a difference for people today, my children, our grandchildren. So yeah, so far, pretty good.
We'll check back in with you. Well, thank you very much, Kevin Law, President and CEO of the Long Island Association.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Same to you. And thank you for being there. I'm Richard Rose. Be sure to join us next week for yet another edition of Focus.